What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. I am out here in these beautiful mountain twisties on my MT-07, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this bike versus the R6 I used to have. And this video will serve as a I'm gonna slow down and wait for my girlfriend. She's behind me. I want to make sure that she's close and she's safe and everything. This will serve as a middleweight naked bike versus sport bike video. Where is she? There she is. She's on a little 2018 R3, which is absolutely an amazing little bike. I love riding that little thing. So I started out on an 89 CBR 600. That doesn't really count for this video. It was old, and bikes have come a long way since then. It was not a great bike to start out on the street on. I did grow up on dirt bikes and had a lot of experience riding motorcycles, so I felt like it'd be okay to start on an older 600 because they were a lot slower and a lot less twitchy and had a lot less of the problems than what I'm going to be talking about, but it still wasn't a good beginner bike by any means. So anyway, the main I'll cut to the chase. The main thing I didn't like about the 600cc sport bike was the power delivery. It's all at the top. You have to wind that thing out to get a bunch of power out of it, and you know, if you're not winding it out, then it's just not fun. It's uncomfortable to sit on, it's twitchy, and it just doesn't have any torque or any power until you get really high in the rev range, and that's when it's the most fun. And when you, God, look how beautiful it is out here. When you are there, you know, up in the rev range, you're going way too fast for the street, man. You're going way too fast. There's rock slides out here, there could be snakes in the road, there could be cars pulling out in front of me, gravel, all kinds of stuff. I don't feel like it's safe to ride an R6 aggressively or any 600cc sport bike on the street. It's just not safe, man. And people do it and have fun, and people crash, and people will get hurt, and people die, you know? Like, I just felt like I was running on too much luck, but the way I learned to ride was aggressively and to have fun and to blast through the gears and, you know, slowly, you know, take corners faster and faster, you know? And I just couldn't ride that way without relying on some luck, and that luck runs out, man. So anyway, you know, after having the R6 as my only vehicle for a couple years, I sold it and bought a van and traveled the country for a few years, and that was a blast, but man, I missed riding the whole time. So the time came when, you know, I was living with my girlfriend, and we were living in the van, and we both had jobs, and we needed to be in different places at different times, and Uber and stuff was getting expensive. So it was time to get another vehicle, and I was making more money, so I was like, all right, I'm getting a bike. And I thought that, you know, going to the opposite end of the spectrum of something that's, you know, pretty slow that you could ride really hard all the time and have fun on would be the way to go. So I got a WR 250R little dual sport, and that was a really fun bike, but it just wasn't the right bike for me. So I ended up trading that in for this, what, a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. And man, I wish they would have had these when I started riding this. I don't know if this still isn't a perfect beginner bike. That R3 is, but man, this is a great second bike, and I just love this thing. So here's the things I like about this versus the R6. First thing is it's comfortable. I can ride this thing for hours and hours and hours and be totally fine with it. It's great, super comfortable. Second thing is the power. It's not nearly as fast. It's still fast, but it's not nearly as fast. Let me take a break for a second and check with my girlfriend, make sure she's good. She never comes up next to me when I stop. Are you good?
Yeah.
You feeling good? Mm-hmm. You're safe?
Yeah.
You're confident?
Yes.
Alright, let's keep going. So, yeah, the power is, and look at this, like, it's not slow. It's not slow at all. And you still get a rush, but it's not like crazy fast either. Like, this thing is a Twisty's weapon, man. The suspension makes me feel like I'm super planted and just super connected to the road. Like I could feel every little bump in the road, but not in like a harsh way, you know? And it's got enough torque where you can go into corners pretty slow, you know, at a safe speed when you're going around a blind corner. And you can, you know, if I was really getting on it, you know, if I didn't have my girlfriend with me, I always hit the horn. That's the stupidest placement for the horn on this thing. I could trail brake into corners, and it doesn't really matter what gear I'm in. I could just hit the gas and it'll pull me right out because it's got all that low torque and that mid-range grunt to just pull me right out. So I feel like it's a lot safer. And you know, I was just blasting through the gears and I only got up to what, like 90 or so? If I was doing that on my R6, I would have been going 130 probably, 140. And that's just insane, man. Also, the brakes on this feel a lot better. It's got ABS. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. I mean, on one hand, it definitely makes you safer if you've got an emergency brake, but they just seem to grab on a little too soon. Like, yeah, see, they just grab on too soon. The other thing is the sound of this. God. It just sounds insane. You can't hear it through the video. For whatever reason, the sound does not come through. But this thing just sounds monstrous, man. It just sounds beastly. And the wind, I love the wind. Man, yeah, when you're on the highway for a couple hours, it gets to be just a little much. Oh, it's gravel. I try to point when things... Whoa, what is that balloon, dude? It's a weird looking hot air balloon. I don't even think it is. It doesn't have a basket on it. What was I talking about? The wind? Oh yeah, so the wind, you know, I'm in SoCal. It gets hot out here. The wind feels great. It feels so nice. It's like, it's 77 degrees out here and it just feels great, man. It feels awesome. And it helps you know how fast you're going. Like the R6, man, all that wind protection, you couldn't tell. There were many times I'd be on the highway and there's nobody out there, so I don't have a visual reference for speed, you know, other than how fast things are going by me. And I'd look down and I'm going like 90, 100 miles an hour, and I didn't even realize it. It felt like I was only going 60 or something, you know? So this thing, it's easier not to speed on. One, because it's not as fast, and two, it's you have the wind. I think this is where we're supposed to turn. We're taking some weird... Nah, this isn't it, man. It's farther than this. Yeah, the brakes are great. The engine matches the chassis, if that makes sense. Like, it's not... I don't know how to explain that. It's just overall, like, put together really well. Like, they did a super good job on this bike, man, putting this thing together. And everything works great. It has a lot more character than the R6 too. That, you know, the thing that made that R6 do exactly what you told it to instantly, it never fought back. It just like, it just listened to you and did what you told it to, and it never asked questions. And this doesn't really either. This does too, but I don't know, there's just something about it. It just feels more lively and more fun to ride. It's just overall, it's way more fun. And I'm not exactly sure why, but it is. The brakes are great. You know, of course, the back brake is vague and just feels mushy, and yeah, it does on every bike I've ever ridden. But the front brake is great, man. Once I got it broken in, I was like, wow, this is great. So yeah, dude, this bike, this is so much better than the R6. In town, it's fun. It's like riding a supermoto because it's just so torquey, and that front end just comes right up and it just wants to wheelie all the time. The front end just pops up. And it's just got so much torque. You could just blast, you know, if you need to go around cars and stuff, it just blast around. And you know, it's got a lower seat height, so I can get both my feet down. I can flat foot on both feet, and it's just more comfortable. The upright riding position, but it's still slightly aggressive. The rear sets are still back a little bit, so my legs still bent in like a sporty position, and the bars are narrow like clip-ons. And they're, for my height, I'm 5'8", so I'm bent forward just a little bit, just enough to feel like I'm on a sporty, quick bike, but not so much to be uncomfortable. I could totally ride this thing for hours and hours and hours. Yeah, if I was going to go long distances on it, I want to get a windshield, but, you know, I think I'm fine. Also, the ability to wheelie it is so easy to wheelie, and it feels so stable, and I feel so confident. Yeah, I chopped the throttle there and dropped it because I got scared because it came up a little fast. But this is easier to wheelie than my WR250 was, and that thing's practically a dirt bike. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude, this bike is just freaking killer. I love this thing. I don't think it looks as good as sport bikes. I like the way it looks. It looks tough. It looks like a little bulldog. But I love the way sport bikes look, man. If I was on the track, I'd really like to have the R6 because I feel like you can fine tune, you know, your technique and stuff, and it's so touchy that you could become a better rider on that if you had enough track time, you know, and you were taking courses and being professionally trained and everything. But on the street, I feel like I can ride this way faster because I just feel much more confident on it, and it's much more forgiving, but without being boring. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that. That's hard to explain. But I don't know, man. The R6 was twitchy, and it did exactly what you told it to. Instantly, like razor sharp. The thing was like a razor blade. And this thing's just smooth, and yeah, it does what you tell it to. It's super flickable, and actually, I haven't ridden the R6 for a couple years, but I think this is more flickable than the R6, especially at speed. I remember having to put a lot more energy into the bars to get it to turn, where this thing, you can just throw it around, man. Like, it's nuts. It's awesome. The R3 is obviously a little more so. It's lighter and has skinnier tires and everything else, but man, this thing is so nimble and so easy to turn, but at the same time it feels stable, and yeah, it feels stable. That's the word for it. What else could I say about the two? I mean, the only thing you're really giving up on this bike versus the sport bike is the wind protection, which I don't mind at all. I might change the way I feel about that in a cold, rainy day, but you know, out here in the sunshine when it's 75 degrees, this feels pretty good to me. I like it. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I don't think there's much else I could really talk about to compare the two. I mean, to kind of like highlight my main points, the power on this is actually usable and it's fun without going crazy fast. I feel more confident on it. One, because it's not so touchy that I feel like just a little bit of too much input into the bars, or putting my weight in the wrong spot on the bike around a corner, or too much or too little throttle is gonna really upset the chassis and, you know, make me crash. You know, on the other hand, there is a lot of engine braking, so if you chop the throttle on this thing, you're gonna feel it. So this learning how to control the throttle smoothly on this is gonna really come in handy, you know, if I move up to a leader bike, or, you know, I really want a Ducati. I want a big V-twin Ducati or a V4. That'd be freaking amazing too. But I don't want to pay for it. I think I want an old 916 to kind of restore and just ride on the weekends and stuff. Anyway, rambling. Yeah, it's just more confidence inspiring. I feel more connected, and it's more fun. That's basically it. I'm rambling because my attention is super divided. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll have a full review video of this. There's a lot more things I want to talk about. There's some things I really don't like about this bike too, which I will talk about. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.